Hi and welcome back. Recently I read an article where the author compared the work of a writer with the work of a programmer, and I found it very interesting because I think everything he says is true. That's why I wanted to share it with you. 6 things programmers can learn from writers. The first thing is that the first draft will probably suck. When you're a writer, your first draft is not great. But when you gather more and more experience, the quality of that first draft starts improving, and you will need fewer and fewer corrections over time. With programming, this is the same thing. You have to admit that your first draft is not going to be perfect, but that does not mean that you don't have to put your best effort into it. But you shouldn't be prematurely optimizing and spending a bunch of time beautifying your code neither, because there is a high probability that no matter what you do, no matter if you feel like the most intelligent person that day, maybe the next day you will have found a way to optimize your code and find a better solution. The second point, proofread your own work. So anyone can usually tell when a writer didn't even proofread their own work, and the same applies to programmers. When you have typos, when you left lots of console logs, bugs that are so obvious that you can catch them at a glance, and these are all typically red flags in a code review that the programmer didn't do much proofreading of their own work. Okay, so proofreading your own work is very important. If you are submitting a new feature and you think it's ready for testing for the QA team to test it and review it, make sure it actually works, or you will look silly. Three, let others proofread your work. So I think this is an obvious one because, well, writers let someone else proofread their works, and in programming it's the same thing. In fact, the whole concept of code reviews revolves around this idea of having others proofread your work to minimize problems like bugs or other things. So I think you will be compelled to do this a lot. 4. There will probably be a second or third draft. So remember when you were in high school and you had to write an essay. I ask you this: how often did you submit your first draft and never touch it again? I hope that never happened to you, but I know that it happens a lot of times. But I remember having a teacher that revised my work and gave me very useful feedback, and then I made the corrections, and when the teacher said it was okay, I submitted. So programming is the same thing. Programmers often tie their ego to getting their code right the first time. But you have to know that an error-free piece of software has never been written in history, and your pull requests are going to be rejected even when you think you did everything perfectly. And that's totally fine, because you should be happy that someone else has given you the opportunity to learn and improve. We all have something to learn from each other. Okay, I'm always grateful when someone with more experience give me comments and feedback in the pull requests, because I know I can improve something. Okay, and you may submit a second pull request and get rejected again, and yeah, that may hurt your ego a bit, but it's the same principle: learn, improve, and repeat. 5. A finished piece is better than a perfect work in progress. So going back to the high school example, have you ever not submitted an essay because you were perfecting it? No, because if you do that, you're going to get an F for failure. And programming is no different. If your software takes 2 years to build because you want it to be perfect, then you already failed. Accept that even your completed work won't be a masterpiece and you will still be iterating on it. The most important thing is that you need feedback as soon as possible from your clients, for example, so we can make the improvement sooner rather than later. 6. Keep a cohesive narrative. So, have you ever read an article that can't seem to stay on track, that it's like a roller coaster? So a roller coaster, you enjoy the random twists, the turns and loops, but in an article where all you want is information, this is not desirable. And something that requires a lot of skill in both writers and developers is the ability to flow the narrative from start to finish. So you may be thinking code should be optimal and easy to read, not to tell a story, but I think that's not the case. Because what if I told you that code that tells a story is easier to read? There's a reason humans are so responsive to a well-told story. When your code has a clear start, a clear development, and a clear end, it naturally forms a story. And yes, it's a boring one, but it makes easier for other programmers to follow it. And that's everything for this video. I hope you like it, and leave me in the comments what do you think about the analogies between writers and programmers. Bye bye.